Letitia James indicted?
Good.
We've been following this case for years, of course, first with Letitia James taking a shot at Trump, trying to turn him into a criminal, and now Trump has exposed her as being more guilty of the crime that she accused him of, and I approve of this. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. We're going to open here on Newsmax with Kari Lake letting Letitia James have it in a sweet moment of irony.
For how much time Trump spent sitting in court, how hard they tried to humiliate him. And again, he goes 78 years. He never has any legal trouble. And all of a sudden he has 91 felonies at 79 years old. And you're telling me that's not political? This is necessary. The people that did this needs to happen to them. Otherwise, they'll just do it again. If a lesson isn't learned here, then these people will just get worse and they'll do it again.
Well, I don't think it's retribution at all. I think it is law and order. It's justice. There was a wrongdoing here. It sounds like it's a solid case. We're going to get more information as the days unfold. And I think it's going to be an open and shut case, a real easy one. It's all there in the documents, and nobody forced anybody to sign a document. And so when you fill out these documents, it's really hard to prove otherwise that you are innocent when, in fact, the evidence is right there in front of you.
I'm going to show you guys the documents. This is a Loctite case, according to the legal scholars, and repeated by Kari Lake in a lovely lime green blouse.
You know, and we think of what happened to President Trump and the fact that he was dragged through all of this nonsense. Meanwhile, New York City devolved into just a crime haven where criminals were running the streets, killing people, maiming people, hurting people, and not being prosecuted. Maybe the good news is that when Tish does go to prison, there's going to be no criminals there because she didn't help lock any of them up. But
she's only going to be in prison with innocent people because she didn't lock up any criminals. Do you guys believe? First is that's an interesting claim by Kari Lake. Will Tish James go to prison? I mean, I hope so. By the standard she judged Trump, Tish James must be judged. Let's get to those documents here. Here's Mike Davis. Big Tish indictment is airtight. This is the actual document here. Let me get my smart guy glasses on. Letitia James versus the United States of America. This is in the Eastern District of Virginia. Will she get her justice here? Grand jury charges that. So a grand jury, independent grand jury, they went to a bunch of people within Virginia, showed them the crimes. They said, yes, this is worthy of an indictment. Letitia James was a resident of Brooklyn, New York, borrower on a Fannie Mae-backed mortgage loan for the properly located in Virginia. The mortgage lending business, they go into the whole, what the actual business's name was, chartered a corporation that purchased and guaranteed mortgages. Looks airtight. She even deducted repair and maintenance expenses. Homeowners don't get that break. So the question is, what? And now here's her tweet. This is an older tweet of hers. When a powerful people cheat to get better loans, it comes at the expense of hardworking people. This is October 9th of 2025. Everyday Americans cannot lie to a bank to get, let me get off the screen here, a mortgage. And if they did, our government would throw the book at them. There simply cannot be different rules for different people. Okay, that's what we're saying about you, Tish. Now here's CNN. Now, all you're going to see from the left is a double standard of rules. This was posted by Andrew Colvett, who now runs Turning Point USA, the day-to-day for Charlie Kirk. He's a longtime Charlie. So this is Turning Point USA posted this. CNN, 3 losers. Kinzinger's on there. Look at these doughy losers. That's Toobin on the right there, the guy that got caught pleasuring himself on camera in front of a fellow news person.
According to PolitiFact, the day after she was elected in 2018, Letitia James was asked by a community activist if she was going to sue President Trump, and she replied, quote, "Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally." I mean, that's not a great look for somebody who has just been elected or just been campaigning, who hasn't even looked I guess, deeply at any evidence.
Well, that's, we live in a system where attorneys general and district attorneys well, I mean, it's a bizarre case in many respects. First of all, it's incredibly small potatoes. This is a house that was purchased for $137,000 in 2020, a year when the average house in America was sold for $383,000. So any mortgage, any insurance on a house of that value is going to be very small, and in ordinary circumstances wouldn't draw the attention of the Department of Justice. But more importantly, what is so chilling about this case is that ever since Watergate, presidents have imposed on themselves the rule that they do not interfere in criminal prosecutions, much less demand them. But here you have a demanded prosecution, and one that the career people in the Eastern District of Virginia thought was an unworthy case.
This is a level of spaghetti. This is the kind of backflips that a Democrat has to do to say Tish was justified in going after the president, and the Department of Justice, this independent lawyer or judge that they hired, out in Virginia, went after Tish James. Trump can say, I'm arm's distance. I'm not touching this thing. I have no opinion on it. I don't know what you're talking about, Tubin, who pleasured yourself on camera in front of a subordinate. Here's the action, more on the document. Here's Viva Free. Big Tish James has actually been indicted. I didn't vote because I'm Canadian, he says, but if I did, this would have been exactly what I voted for. For what it's worth, she's dead due to rights, barring a corrupt jury. So Tish James, this is a Viva Frey. Even though he's Canadian, I trust his legal theory. He's a very sober-minded, very serious, very wonderful man. And Tish James, remember, said that no one was above the law. That's over here. No one's above the law. Here we go. The loan was originated by OVM Financial under a signed second home rider, which required James as the sole owner to occupy and use the property as her secondary residence and prohibited its use as a time-sharing or other shared ownership arrangement or agreement that requires her either to rent the property or give any other person any control over the occupancy of the property. Despite these representations, the Perron property was not occupied or used by James as a secondary residence and was instead used as a rental investment property, renting the property to a family of 3. Now, this may seem picayune. This may seem trivial. But just remember what LetitiaJames got Trump on for his mortgage fraud. And I'm saying that is the standard of picayune that we must apply against LetitiaJames. By the standard you judges. Remember, all these parables throughout the New Testament is about us not holding others to a higher level than we hold ourselves. You often have a plank in your own eye, and you're pulling that grain of sand out of your opponent, and you're ignoring the plank in your own. Well, LetitiaJames had a plank in her eye of real estate fraud, and she went after Trump for real estate fraud. Though there were no victims, everyone who performed any business with his real estate agency wanted to continue doing business with him. Okay, there's no victim in his case, and she went after him. So it is right to go after her in this instance, in my opinion. Here's more on CNN coming back at her.
Do 2 wrongs make a right, Scott?
Well, the implication that I don't support the Constitution that you made notwithstanding.
I did not say that.
Excuse me, being an
He's
original.
just famous for being a constitutional originalist.
Here's what I think. If Democrats like Slotkin are going to come out today and whine about selective prosecutions over Tish James, her entire career is built on the selective prosecution of one man. Now, I also believe what Elliot said. There's a process here. Everybody gets their day in court. Obviously, a grand jury saw enough evidence to bring charges. We don't know what they are, but a grand jury looked at this and says, okay, there's something here. She gets to go to court just like Comey, just like anyone else. But to me, it's just not going to fly to boo-hoo over selective prosecutions on this particular person who promised in her campaigns, who went after him on things, as Jonah said, that had no business ever happening, if not but for the man's last name being Trump. So I'm not going to...
How is that not a 2 wrongs make a right argument?
That's Jonah Goldberg, an alleged Republican neocon. Used to be great, now a complete sellout because of his Trump derangement syndrome. He's doing this is a both sides. How does this not two wrongs make a right? I'll tell you how it's not. In this case, two wrongs. If you don't prosecute the second wrong by the standard that the first wrong was prosecuted, you have committed a pure evil. You have invited corruption into your system of government. You have invited if you do not demand that she be prosecuted, Jonah Goldberg, in saying, wait, this is a second wrong. No, this is us saying that there is one standard. There's no two tiers of justice. We heard for years that no one is above the law. The law, as practiced by Letitia, a high authority. She must be held by this authority, Jonah Goldberg. Not two wrongs make a right, but if you only prosecute, if you allow one of the wrongs and then do not allow the other thing to happen, which I'm not weighing in on if it's right or wrong to go after Letitia James. I'm only saying if you do not go after her, it is a wrong. So Jonah Goldberg becomes the one that is for two wrongs. And I'm saying to Jonah Goldberg, two wrongs don't make a right. What are the two wrongs? When Letitia James went after Trump, and if Trump does not go after Letitia James, it is a moral wrong because you've taken the blindfold off of justice.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying she gets her day in court.
That's right.
I'm saying a grand jury saw enough evidence to bring charges, and I'm saying she gets to go to court and tell her side of the story, and then we'll see what happens.
And that's especially important to hear what he said. It went before a grand jury. The Democrats always say it's an independent grand jury in Virginia, independent grand jury. Now, if Jonah Goldberg says this is a political persecution, then he has to undermine the entire system of grand juries, of the secret grand jury that looked at the evidence, because a grand jury is allegedly neutral and not politicized. So are you going to impugn the character of the grand jury system? No, because they found enough on Letitia James to go for it. See how this works? This is Loctite. Democrats do not have a squirm in this, and their only squirm that they can do is say this is obviously political. And I'm saying this is way upstream from things being merely political. This is moral. It's actually moral to do, and it's immoral not to do it. Here's our favorite bomb thrower, Mike Davis, over on Steve Bannon Show.
They went after our side for nonsense. They went after our side for non-crimes. They politicized and weaponized intel agencies and law enforcement with made-up charges that eventually got kicked by the Supreme Court. And it wasn't just Trump and his top aides like you, Bannon and Navarro and Jeff Clark. You guys have the wherewithal to fight this. They went after parents, Christians, protesters on January 6th. They hunted them for years.
That was their system of government. He's saying what their standard was. This is very important, guys, in my view, to justify our position. Morally, they went after Christians, people that don't have the wherewithal to defend themselves. They broke their doors down at gunpoint and arrested them. They threw J6ers, 1,500 of them in prison, okay? That is their standard. And no Republican like Jonah Goldberg said, look, you impeach Letitia James now for 2 years. Now. They didn't. They defended the system of government. And I'm only saying, if that's the system of government, remember the standard is you can have the FBI go after Christians. Therefore, you can have the FBI go after atheists and Muslims, because Jonah Goldberg and the squishy rhinos did not scream for the last 2 years. You impeach them now. The republic is over. The rule of law is dead. It's the Constitution is a joke. You didn't say it, so you don't get to say it now. That's the whole point.
These lawfare Democrats, I would say, we are just getting warmed up.
Yes.
James Comey
Amen.
And Big Tish James are just the appetizers. Hearty appetizers, but they are just the appetizers. Just wait till we get to the main course.
And by the way, I don't have a problem with Mike Davis enjoying this and gloating and looking like he's the cat that just ate the bird in the catbird seat. You're allowed to enjoy it. Why do you have to sit there and hand wring and go, oh, we really regret going after Letitia James the way she went after Trump? No, it's delicious. It's wonderful. Sing a song. Sound the trumpet. We need a parade in the streets. Yay. We're finally getting Letitia James. This is going to be great. When we apply their weirdo justice system on them, we're just taking the exact same shape and saying, this is the one we all agreed was the constitutional republic. So now we're going to fire it back on you from a fire hose. And when you say this is unfair, shut up. No one's going to listen to you. We're too busy laughing at you. Get Letitia James. Here's more from that Andrew Colvert, head of TPUSA, posted this one of CNN. Now, this is on Mark Elias has hit rock bottom. Mark Elias, who's one of the guys at Act Blue that helped get all of the election shenanigans, the micro donations, a giant Democrat corrupt scam artist. Mark Elias is tied to George Soros to a point that the Democrat Party wouldn't even touch him. And here he is whining on CNN. And again, I'm just going to have fun. Yay, yay, get Letitia James. Get her.
Really, what we are living in now is we need to recognize that this is the reality. This is not surreal.
Right.
This is real. This is not the abnormal. This is the normal.
That's right. You made it normal, Mark Elias. You did this. You declared this is normal. So yeah, this isn't the new normal. I want to emphasize this is the old normal, that you all put on Trump, and no Republican fought it and said this is not normal. No Republican came out screaming and said, how dare you do this to Trump? They acted like it was the normal. So now we're going to apply your normal to you that you invented. I have no tears for you. I have nothing but laughter for the spooky, bug-eyed, terrified, sweating face that you have right now.
This is the world that we now live in. We live in a world in which the President of the United States is able to get anyone in the country who he wants indicted to be investigated by the FBI.
Yeah, just like the Christians you guys went after from the FBI. Welcome, welcome. You made this bed. You pooped in the bed and now you got to sleep in it. They're going, this bed's full of poop. Yeah, who pooped the bed? You. Now lay down in your bed full of poop. I'm going to put the blankets over you, especially over your nose. Put the blanket over you. How do you like it? They're going, this bed stinks. This bed stinks. You pooped it.
Be pursued, perhaps have their house raided, and if they can find a bare minimum of a grand jury quorum anywhere, they will get indicted. And
really, they should be pulling the grand juries to reciprocate and to be equal to Washington, D.C., which is 90% Joe Biden, and New York, Manhattan, which is 90% for Joe Biden. The reciprocal would be if they went and shopped a grand jury pool that was 90% Republican, like go to downtown conservative Oklahoma. I want the most conservative, bury the needle, right wing, West Virginia, redneck, 90% Trump voter. Pull a grand jury from there. That would be fair. We're not even going that far.
Of the Department of Justice and the rules that everyone keeps citing to me. Well, the rules of this, rules of that. Those rules, that rule book is gone. Okay, those rules are gone. This is this is a president who believes he controls the Department of Justice and he decides who's guilty, who's innocent, who gets indicted, and who gets prosecuted.
The only difference is Joe Biden was not in control of his Department of Justice because Joe Biden was in a coma for 4 years. He had the weird, unelected Obama, all of his assistants, everyone had access to the auto pen, probably 8 people running the country that we did not vote for. No, and even Democrats didn't vote for them. They were running the country. They ran these indictments. They moved people into Manhattan to be able to working for Alvin Bragg, volunteer lawyers and judges.
And if we don't all wake up to that, then we're going to keep having this conversation about who checked what box on a form. Nothing about who checked what box on a form is what this case is about.
Now, one thing I'll admire about these Democrats is at least they know when they're getting caught. He's screaming, going, sound the alarms, guys. No Republican did this in the last 4 years. No Republican came out and defended Trump and saying, if we don't fight this now, our republic is over. That's what Mark Elias is saying to the Democrats. Hey, if we don't fight this now, I wish the Republicans would fight like this commie. This commie is more patriotic to his Democrat cult than the Republicans are to the country and to the Constitution. That's what bugs me. These guys know how to fight. They cut their gloves off 20 years ago. and started punching under the belt. They'd go in the boxing ring, and our side had the gloves, like the old 1800s ads with a guy with a big handlebar mustache, and he's doing the boxing like this. They come in, they cut their gloves off. They're kicking you in the nuts when the ref isn't looking, and you're inside getting just bloodied, and no one did anything. The referees did nothing. These guys know how to fight.
Yeah, and if I can just add one thing, Simone says this is not over. Like, this is just begun.
Right.
Okay.
These are just the hors d'oeuvres, as Mike Davis said. We're just starting. You ain't seen nothing, Mark. I'm hoping they get you and Act Blue and George Soros for funding all of these illegal forms of voting and protest. I hope we go after you next. Oh, of course you're innocent until proven guilty, Of course, Mark Elias, you're innocent until proven guilty. No one's above the law.
Talking about the deployment of the military in Los Angeles, and there was a lot of public attention and outrage. And then it came to Washington, D.C., and there was a lot less. And then in Portland, there's been less. In Chicago, it's even less.
Just as they hoped.
And before you know it, there will be troops in every city trying to intimidate people. And,
intimidate people or intimidate, people. By people, you mean murderers. Trying to intimidate murderers, vandals who break windows and vandalize. That's who we're intimidating. And illegal criminals.
There has been a lot of attention about James Comey, understandably, and a lot about AG James, and for good reasons. But, and
for good reason. We'll stop on that. There was very good reason to go after Comey and Letitia James for good reason. Thank you. Here's the two faces of CNN before and after going after Trump.
Trump did acknowledge that there could have been a mistake on his financial statement when it came to the value of his Trump Tower apartment, but he said that's why his statements included disclaimer clauses. Quote, there's a disclaimer clause where you don't have to get sued by the Attorney General of New York. Is that in any way a legitimate defense?
Yeah, it was a mistake. That's what Trump said. It was maybe there might have been a mistake on there. We're going to find out what standard they shall apply to Letitia James is going to be the standard they give to Trump.
No, the judge already found it wasn't. The judge said, listen, you just can't offer miscalculating or wrong and misleading and fraudulent information and then say, wait, just kidding, do your own due diligence here. You have to be able to rely on what's actually being said. So the judge already resolved that issue. Now,
okay, good. We'll stop there. So no allowance for mistakes. Whatever you said is what we're going to hold you to. I'm going to skip ahead to CNN now on Letitia James. She made some mistakes, so she gets a pass.
You have to prove that it's done knowingly. And so
So if it's a mistake, that's actually relevant criminally. It has to be, if it is a mistake and the person says, look, it's obviously a mistake, here's evidence it's a mistake, then you can't prove intent, and that's important.
They've acknowledged, Letitia James seems not, there was an error on a power of attorney form.
Oh, there was an error. It was a mistake. So now she gets a pass. Wrong. We're going to hold them to the previous one that they held Trump to when they said when there might be a mistake, you don't have to sue. Yes, you do. We're going to hoist them on their own petard. We're going to raise them up on their own stick that they put up. Take them, you're going to raise them up and throw them on the stick that they raised against you. And that makes me happy. Letitia James, may you, in the name of justice, get every bit of what you intended for Trump. I'm Doug in Exile. Subscribe.